a couple of things to go through here, right? There was an impending government shutdown, right? And they were trying to, what the Democrats were trying to do is make sure that they lump weapons for Ukraine in with the main bill. You know, they always do this, where, you know, you'll have like something like the crime bill in 1994, which Biden wrote, and then he'll put something like the Defense of Women Act inside of it, so that you feel, you know, compelled to vote for this thing, just because you want the Defense for Women Act to pass, and even though you don't like the rest of it, right? Because it's horrible. The 94 crime bill, you know, tons of people in jail, you know, just prison industrial complex, raking in billions, you know, feeding this disgusting corporate beast, and ruining the lives of so many people. And that's how they get you, you know? So, and they do this all the time. They'll put two things that are completely unrelated just to compel you and to convince you into voting for something, right? This is how they often do this. And so in any case, the House voted on, as it says here, the House voted on a bill that was separated from the Pentagon budget and turned into a new proposal outlining $300 million in aid to Ukraine. So in the end, they separated them, okay? They were able to keep the government open, right, and running, up and running, but they postponed the aid for Ukraine. Honestly, come on, like 300 million? These are peanuts. We want billions. Billions, man. You can't save democracy and defeat Putin with 300 million. This is a joke. God, they're so horrible. So obviously, what do you think happened? How did these progressives vote for this bill, right? Well, the interesting thing is that before they even got to vote for it, Jamal Bowman pulled a fire alarm in Cannon Building, which is adjacent to, it basically connects to the Capitol with this underground tunnel, and some of the representatives have their offices in Cannon Building, right? So he just pulls a fire alarm. I mean, I don't, like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I saw this, you know, picture from this frame from the CCTV footage, and I was like, he used to run a school, right? He was a middle school principal, and now he's claiming he didn't know it's a fire alarm. How do you run a school? They have fire alarms all over the goddamn place, right? You see, you work in this building. It's not his first day in Congress, right? Look at this.
It was over the weekend when your New York colleague, Congressman Jamal Bowman, and he's under investigation for this now after Capitol Police say he pulled a fire alarm in one of the House office buildings. Democrats were trying to delay a final vote on the bill. There he is pulling the fire alarm. He says it was an accident. He thought pulling the alarm would open a door based on the fact that the doors to his right there were locked.
If this was really an accident, and, you know, if I mean, I would rather say I did it on purpose than people think I'm that stupid.
And there was a sign that he said he was, I think someone said it was confusing. I'll be honest, it doesn't really make sense to me, his explanation.
Man, when even CNN can't buy your bullshit, you are in trouble.
Talk to him. What's going on there?
I mean, listen, I think if you actually do see some of the photos of the signs, I think there's something to be said about the government's about to shut down. There's a vote clock that's going down. The exits that are normally open in that building were suddenly closed.
So you pulled the fire alarm?
So what I am here to say is that House administration and U.S. Capitol Police and Jamal Bowman are an active, and he's fully participating in saying there was a misunderstanding. But what I do think is important to raise is the fact that Republicans, representatives like Nicole Malliotakis and others, immediately moved to file motions to censure, motions to expel, before there has even been conversations that are finished to even see if there was a misunderstanding here. But what
I will spare you and deliver you from this torture. So the thing is that this has led to a very interesting debate, because as you guys remember, on January 6th, right, on this infamous day of the coup d'etat. I mean, I always laugh when people call this a coup, because a coup is when the CIA come for your ass, not when some people walk into the Capitol building. But anyway, the Department of Justice in the U.S., they've been using and bending the language of the law to prosecute around 300 people for January 6th, right? So they could have used assault or trespassing or whatever. And instead, this is from the Washington Post. It came out just like a few minutes ago, right? So before we went live. And very, very interesting piece, right? So in the case Miller versus the United States, right? The breadth of an unlikely federal law that has been used to charge about 300 January 6th Capitol riot defendants. Okay. And then in the 2002 Corporate and Criminal Fraud Accountability Act, part of Sarbanes-Oxley, Congress provided that anyone who corruptly, quote, alters, destroys, mutilates, or conceals a record, document, or other object with intent to impair its integrity or availability for use in an official proceeding, or, quote, otherwise obstructs or influences a proceeding can be imprisoned for up to 20 years. Right? So they've been using this Enron accounting scandal. Okay, that was before that, and then using this to basically prosecute someone who was tampering with investigations. Okay, and the Justice Department have taken, all of these precedents and bent them basically and wielded them for something else. It says here, ignoring the bulk of the language about destroying evidence, the DOJ claims that the law's otherwise clause can cover for the first time participation in a riot. Do you see this word here, otherwise? That's what they mean. So they're using the word otherwise to mean whatever they like. So you came to the Capitol building to riot on January 6th. Okay, well, we think now that rioting is covered by the word otherwise. I mean, lawyers are going to lawyer, This is what they do. They just interpret things how they want. The argument of this piece and some of the people in the Republican Party is that, well, if you're going to bend the language of this to inflict a really, hefty fine and long jail time for all of these people, the 300 defendants from January 6th, because they tried to mess with the official proceedings that day, then you should do the same for Jamal Bowman, because Bowman, by pulling this fire alarm, he ended up delaying this vote, which should have taken 15 minutes, and instead, they were outside for an hour, and then basically, instead of it taking a quarter of an hour, it took hours. And people are saying, well, he did it on purpose to stop the vote, right? Because Democrats were trying to the last second to make sure the money for Ukraine is in there, and it's funny because in the end, it was the money for Ukraine. They all decided to put it aside for a vote later in the year, and then they just all voted for it anyway. So this whole act was so unnecessary. But this does bring up a very interesting argument about the DOJ and how they're going to deal with this situation and deal with Bowman, right? Just because he's a member of Congress, does that give him the right to pull a fire alarm and therefore mess with a vote, right? Or an official proceeding, the passing of legislation? Does that give him the right to do that? Can he get away with that? Or should he be punished the same way that people who rioted on January 6th were, because they interfered with an official proceeding? I do think it raises an interesting question. Obviously, I don't think you can compare, pulling a fire alarm to that, January 6th. And again, what does that even mean, January 6th? I just told you there are 300 cases. The point is that, they used January 6th, like they blew it out of proportion on purpose to start this like domestic war on terror, where, okay, well, because of these actions, now we have to do all of these nasty things to you. And, same logic with war on terror, like because of these bearded men and these planes that flew into the World Trade Center, now we just got to kill a bunch of million people and spy on everyone, including our own citizens. So you always have to watch out for how they wield these laws, right? And lawyers are nasty people. They play with language like better than poets, honestly. So I do think it's an interesting question, but I don't think it's the same. Honestly, I don't know. If this was really a mistake, I would have lied and said I did it on purpose, just so people don't think I'm that stupid. How can you pull that by accident, man? You work in the building. I don't know. I really don't know. when it comes to giving the weapons to Ukraine, don't worry about this. They're going to give them the money. They're going to give them the weapons. And these are just theatrics. These are just theatrics. At the end of the day, these people, they all work in the same building. They went to the same schools. They pretend like, oh, they're in. Of course, you have rival factions, even sometimes within the same party, of course. But generally speaking, these people are friends. You can see this when they vote for some of the most important things, like all this money, these trillions that they gave to corporations during COVID, or when they started the war on terror, or now with this Ukraine war. How they march in lockstep with one another. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. There's more harmony in their relationship than anything else in the world. Like, don't think for 1 second Republicans and Democrats have fundamental differences with one another, because they really, really don't. I saw Green taking the mickey out of him. This, like I said, she's a mad Zionist, right? Like, she'll get him to say Israel is the greatest thing, and Anyway, this small clip was kind of funny.
Hi everyone, we're at the infamous door where Jamal Bowman claims he had to pull a fire alarm to get out. Now, these doors are open on weekdays. Every member of Congress knows that. Everybody that works here knows that. But on Saturdays and Sundays, they are locked, and only certain doors are open on Saturdays and Sundays. Now, come on over here. This right here is a fire alarm. Nowhere does it say, pull the fire alarm to open the exit door. Doesn't say that, and I think ex-middle school.
I like how she gives, she presents a goddamn PhD about the doors in the Cannon building. Okay, enough of that.